You are listening to part 16 of the 7 Medicines, The Wise Woman Way with Susan Weed at Time Monk Radio. Hello, Susan. Welcome back to Time Monk Radio.
Hi, Jim and I hope you had a very powerful week full of great affirmations and visualizations.
I did. I like to use visualization on a daily basis, actually.
Tell us a little more about how you do that.
Well, before I even get out of bed, I like to picture how I want my day to go, and just how like before I leave the house and no traffic or things move smoothly or I have plenty of time, just little things like that. I just plan my day visually.
Oh, how wonderful. I remember Kirandera saying to me, you must remember that the people who come to you believe in you, and you must not disabuse them of their belief. She says, so, Ron, before he came to me, he would get up and he would want breakfast, and there would be no eggs, and he would say, my life is awful. Right? And then he would go after his car to drive to work, and he would have a flat tire, and he would say, my life is awful. All right, and then he would drive to work, and the boss would yell at him, and he would say, my life is awful. She says, but then when Juan starts coming to me, his story changes because he believes in me, and he says, oh, there are no eggs for breakfast. Probably the eggs had salmonella. I'm being protected.
Yeah.
He goes outside and he says, oh, my car has a flat tire. Oh, that's good. There's probably an accident on the road, and I'll miss it.
Yes.
And he goes to work, and his boss yells at him, and he thinks, my boss really cares about me. I'm really important. He doesn't yell at the people that he doesn't have any respect for.
Excellent way to turn it around.
She says, so it's important to let people believe in you because their lives will be better if they believe in you.
Yes.
And, of course, the best part of it is that you don't have to do very much at all. When I was first interested in herbal medicine a long time ago, I had a friend. She's a Leo. I'm an Aquarius. So she's a little more, kind of out front than I am. And she would walk up to plants and she would say, hello, how are you? Let me tell you about a dream I had last night. And I would try, to sink into the earth. I would try to hide behind the nearest tree. I would think, oh, my gosh, they're going to send the people from the funny farm to scoop her up and take her away. And so the whole idea of talking to plants had this kind of, ooh, I don't think so thing to me. And it wasn't because I didn't think plants could communicate. It was because I didn't think I could communicate with them. And then I started sleeping outside. And the more I slept outside, the more I began to hear what I describe as a soft, gentle chuckle.
Yes, I've heard it.
And I said, who's laughing? And then there was not just that chuckle, but that kind of ha, 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 ha. And I thought, oh, my goodness, and I said, who's laughing? And the plant said to me, it's us, the plants, we're laughing. And I said, really, indeed, do you just laugh all the time, laugh and laugh the day away and half the summer's night, right? Or are you laughing at something in particular? They said, oh, we are laughing at you, ha, 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 you are very silly. I said, oh, is it like moi, me, I am very silly, or is it like human, two-leggeds, they are very silly? And they said, two-leggeds are very silly, you're quite right, but no, we are laughing at you personally because you are so silly. I said, oh, okay, this is kind of like 30 questions here, right? Are you laughing at me personally because I am so silly because animal, vegetable, mineral, because of something I said? And they said, yeah, you're going around telling people that people learned about herbal medicine through trial and error. And I said, Yeah, that's how people learn about learn about herbal medicine. You know, somebody eats a plant, they get healthy. We say, oh, look, that plant took away her headache. Somebody eats a plant and they die, and we say, give that plant to people you don't like. Don't eat it yourself. So, you know, that trial and error. And the plants laughed and laughed, and they said, that's so not true. And I said, oh, come on. What other way could we possibly have to learn about plants? That's the only way we have is to do trial and error. And the plant said, and I said, what do you mean? And they said, what's happening? And I said, what do you mean what's happening? And they said, we're talking to you. And I went, oh, I see. You're talking to me. You're telling me that you talk to people and tell people how to use you? Uh-huh. I was amazed. I was astonished. I thoroughly believe it. What an amazing idea that plants are sentient. That plants don't look like us. They don't have eyes like us. They don't do the things we do, and yet they have a full range of abilities. They can move toward each other. They can move away from each other. They can grow up. They can refuse to grow up. Remember the plants that I mentioned at the beginning of the month when John Ott was doing a flash during the middle of the night. They're like, you're going to put light on us in the night. That's it. We're not growing. You know, whoa, sit down, strike. We're not going to grow if you do that to us. Incredible. Different things that plants can do. Plants produce chemicals. They produce insecticidal chemicals. Plants talk to each other and cause other plants to produce the same insecticidal chemicals. Plants can tell themselves and other plants of their ilk which way certain nutrients are. They truly have a full range of capabilities. They just do it in very different ways than we do. Now, when we are with a plant, we don't want to talk to the plant. We want to hear from the plant. That doesn't mean we can't talk to it. We certainly can, and we can talk to it with affirmations and visualizations in the very same way that you say, Gemini, that you envision your day ahead. We can go to a plant, say a dandelion, and we can sit with that dandelion and visualize making medicine from that dandelion and giving it to someone who has a certain specific problem, and that remedy helping that person. In fact, I have had indigenous teachers who wouldn't dream of making an herbal remedy until they have first told the plant what it is they want and then given the plant some time to come up with it and to make itself have the things in the patterns that are needed by the person who we are visualizing. So as the herbalist, we don't just go and say, hey, I think get some dandelion. I want some dandelion. No, we have a clear image of the person who's going to be consuming that and how we would like to see that person. Would we like to see them smiling after meals? Dandelion can help with that. Would we like to see them off of their diabetes medication? If it's a type 2 diabetes, dandelion can definitely help with that. So we bring to the plant the understanding that our intention, our visualization can work with the plant to change the vibrational field of the plant itself and thereby to actually change the physical constituents within the plant. This is a theme that I play in many different variations, and that is that one of the gifts of the plants is that they are ever changing within their matrix of repeatability. So dandelion is dandelion, and it will do dandelion things as it has always done dandelion things. And yet, within the realm of that, speaking with the plant, asking for the plant's help, visualizing that, can actually change the percentages of the constituents that are in that plant, just as the weather conditions change the percentages of constituents. And at the time when it's harvested, changes the percentages of the constituents. And so on and so forth. The soil, the amount of sunlight, the thoughts of the person, all of these things come together to make our herbal remedies not just something that can be measured by science, but something that is richer and fuller and therefore far more capable of causing healing, not just on the surface area or the physical aspect of our beings, but on our emotional selves, our spiritual selves, our community selves, any self that you can think of is part of your wholeness, and the plant is a wholeness and then heals that wholeness. We go back to wholeness when we work with the whole plant. And at its most basic, we are given the vibration of wholeness. I often say there's no way to do herbal medicine wrong. You can't do it wrong because the plant is going to offer that gift of wholeness to it, because we work together, the plants and the people. I write about this in my books in the Wise Woman Herbal series, and there are others who write about it. Elliot Cowan was one who wrote about it, and the author, the single greatest author to my mind on this topic is Stephen Herod Buhner, Buhner. One of the books that I particularly like is called Plant Intelligence and the Imaginal Realm, Beyond the Doors of Perception into the Dreaming of Earth. In addition, Stephen has written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 other books, and I love the way they are listed. Nonfiction, The Lost Language of Plants, Sacred Plant Medicine, The Secret Teachings of Plants. Stephen Herod Buhner is deeply into communicating with plants, and not just communicating with plants because it's fun, but because we need to do this in order to survive. We are at a tipping point of humanity on this planet. This message is coming from many, many different places. And often it comes with a sense of, but, what can I do? What can I do? And what we can do is to ensoul everything that we see, including ourselves. Stephen Herod Booner with a deep bow, and I also with a deep bow honors Barbara McClintock. Barbara McClintock, one of the founders of Findhorn, that great place upon the planet devoted to plant intelligence, devoted to co-evolving with plants. Now, we have obviously co-evolved with plants. What we know scientifically is that plants were here, living, thriving, long before humans, long before mammals. There were plants. Plants are the ancient ones. They are our ancient ancestors, and they are the ones who have always fed us, clothed us, guarded us, given us our very breath. And so we have evolved and co-evolved with the plants. This, however, got off to a very different chapter, something between 20 and 50,000 years ago, when people said to plants, "We have changed. Will you change with us? Will you let us change you?" And plants said, "This will be fun. What can happen if we're not wild, but we're cultivated? How will we be different? In what way can we co-evolve with people?" And so the great experiment that we are bearing the brunt of and eating the fruits of began the cultivation of plants, the cultivation of psychoactive plants. When we look at the genes of psychoactive plants, some of them clearly show us that they have been cultivated for up to 50,000 years, a very, very long time indeed. And food plants, we used to say 10,000 years, then 14,000 years. We're pushing that back. We're thinking probably as long as 20,000 years have humans been saying to plants, "Let me plant you, let me feed you," just as we then did to domestic animals. "Let me care for you. Don't be wild anymore. Come and let us live together. Let us co-create together." We can do this with cultivated plants, and we can do it with wild plants. We don't necessarily have to ask a wild plant if it will come and live in our garden, but we can. Many people like to bring plants from the wild into their gardens. I just did that a couple of weeks ago. I visited a friend, and she brought to her land a small tansy root. And she planted it, and it has covered close to an acre of the front of her property. And I said to her, "I would like to take some tansy home and see if I can get it started at home." And she said, "You will regret this. This is not a plant that will ever stop being wild. It does whatever it wants to do." And so we see that some plants are more likely to talk with us and to share in that co-creation and co-evolution. And some plants, they have their own agenda. Stephen Booner tells us that when we ensoul everything, then the plants can't help but talk to us. I mentioned before that I would tell you how to tell the difference between when you're projecting something on a plant and when the plant is really talking to you. And this was one of the ways that I was able to tell originally when I heard that laughing that the plants were actually talking to me. And that is that usually when the plants talk to you, they are saying things that you would never think. And when you're projecting on a plant, you are thinking things that you always think. So if you look at a red flower and you say, "This plant says it's very vibrant," and you might say to yourself, "Do I think red is vibrant? Maybe the plant didn't say that at all. Maybe that's what I always think." Or if you say, "Wow, this plant is so soft and pink, it looks really soothing to me." Is the plant saying that to you? No. That's something you're projecting onto the plant. The plant might say something quite bawdy. You have an association with pink, But pink is not necessarily what you associate it with. When plants speak, they often speak to us through our bodies directly. So it's somewhat rare, we might say, the experience that I had in actually hearing the plants laugh, although certainly not impossible. And there are many others who have heard plants actually speak to them, or more often hum a tune to them. But we can all hear from plants, we can all breathe with the plants, and we can all use that co-creative, co-evolutionary power of the plants to help us understand how to let our heart beat as one with the heartbeat of Mother Earth. We have found a lot of ways to protect ourselves against nature. I'm certainly not going to say I don't sit in an air-conditioned room when it's really hot out. I do. And at the same time, I spend time, even when it's very hot, outside walking about barefoot. When we make ourselves available to the plants, when we put our bare feet on the earth, when we acknowledge with gratitude and humility that every breath we take is a gift from the plants, then what are we doing? Are we visualizing? Are we affirming? Are we praying? Are we putting out our intention? Are we living in awareness? Are we taking part in the story that says we are all one and the plants have a lot to teach us? There are so many aspects to plant intelligence. Certainly, we can learn as herbalists how to read the things that the plants are telling us. But we don't have to be herbalists, and we don't have to read the plants at all. Good holistic thinking, we are reminded, is much harder than reductionistic thinking. Learning to do it properly, even learning what kinds of things we need to think, is a very great challenge. We are about to leave the third medicine, the third river of healing, the great imaginary realm where color and sound, music and dance, where story, affirmation, visualization, prayer, rituals, all of these things are offered up to us for our healing. And there's one aspect of energy medicine that I haven't yet touched on, and that is the use of psychoactive plants. I mentioned that psychoactive plants have been cultivated for far longer than food plants. And I sometimes tell my apprentices that I can only do a fake shamanic apprenticeship, because anywhere else in the world, in order to be a shamanic apprentice, I would have to give my apprentices mind-altering plants. They would have to come to me being competent in using mind-altering plants. They would have started using those mind-altering plants when they were very young. And they would be able to use those mind-altering plants to alter their minds and to alter the minds of others and to change the stories that others tell. And when the shaman takes the mind-altering plant, then indeed we can say, this is mind medicine. This is vibrational medicine as far as the patient is concerned, because the patient has not taken anything. The patient is in a way getting that vibration from the healer secondhand, or the healer is using that particular psychoactive plant as a way for them to move between the realms and to see what needs to be seen to help this particular unique individual come to their fullness and their wholeness. If, however, the person who is the patient, the person who is sick, takes the psychoactive plant, then we are, strangely enough, at high-tech medicine. High-tech medicine is break and enter. And break and enter is what a psychoactive plant is designed to do. I think about one of my students who had the great good fortune to take place in a funded medical experiment of people with certain types of emotional disorders and the use of psilocybin mushrooms. She said that she benefited more from taking psilocybin mushrooms than she had from any other way that had been offered her to heal what was going on, and that her only regret was that the effect wore off after 7 years, and she wished she could take it again. When we actually ingest the psychoactive plant ourselves, we are breaking open our mind, and we are entering new information about how to be. When the healer is using the psychoactive plant, then they are engaged in energy healing for us, the patient. I'm thinking of perhaps Maria Sabina, the great Mazatec shaman, who said, if you want a healing from me, bring me psilocybin mushrooms. And she took the psilocybin mushrooms and chanted over the person for hours and hours and hours at a time. And to me, this is certainly the shaman's playground. This is the third river of healing. Next month, next time we get together, we are going to move into the fourth medicine. And you might be saying to yourself, well, I hope Susan doesn't have as much to say about the fourth medicine as she did about the third medicine. And I have to say, she does. The fourth medicine is lifestyle medicine. When it is the 6 steps of healing, this is nourish and tonify. And we have a lot to talk about in terms of nourishing and tonifying, in terms of lifestyle. And I am really pleased to see that the medical community and the alternative health community is really starting to notice that this is something that is quite important. I'm looking at a recent article from Time magazine from Dr. Dean Ornish, who says, it's time to embrace lifestyle medicine. Lifestyle medicine is not just about how long we live, but about how well we are living. When we get back together again, we're going to be looking into lifestyle medicine. We're going to be looking into the specifics of lifestyle medicine, looking at nourishing herbal infusions, green drinks, juicing, different diets, raw food diet, paleo diet, tonification, tonifying herbs, yoga, tai chi, qigong, exercise of all kinds. Yes, indeed. What we eat and how we move is what we're talking about with lifestyle medicine, and that's what's going to be coming up next month. Thank you so much for offering me this forum to talk about the 7 medicines, Gemini.
Thank you so much, Susan. It's so enjoyable every week.
And as we get into lifestyle medicine, this will get a lot more herbal, and I'll be able to remind you that herbal medicine is people's medicine. It's the medicine that grows right outside your door. Green blessings, everyone, until we meet again.
Thank you. And this concludes part 16 of our discussion on the 7 medicines, the Wise Woman Way, with Susan Wade at Time Monk Radio.